Hi, everyone. Thank you. You settled down really fast. I'm impressed. I'm Nancy Josephson. I'm one of the partners here at WME, and I want to welcome everyone on behalf of WME and Endeavor Content. This is an incredible gathering. We're here to celebrate the extension of the California Production Tax Credit for another 5 years, and the funding each year of $330 million. But most importantly, to many of us, the inclusion of a diversity tracking component in the renewal of the tax credit. And so for the first time in California production tax credit history, every production that qualifies for the credit has to report above the line diversity in their productions, has to establish a diversity program if they don't have one, and they have to report on diversity promoting initiatives and their measurable impacts. This would never have happened without the leadership of many people, and we want to thank some of them today. I think we're still waiting for Senator Holly Mitchell, the chair of the Senate Budget Committee, and she was the author of the Film Production Tax Credit Extension. Senator Mitchell played a central role in getting this legislation and the diversity tracking amendment through and getting it signed by the governor. We want to welcome members of the Asian American Pacific Islander Caucus, Assemblymember Rob Bonta, there we go, right there, chair of the California API Caucus. Assemblymember Bonta was a crucial voice advocating for a diversity component in the PTC bill, and we thank you for that. Assemblymember David Chu, right here, who came to WME during these negotiations in Sacramento, and we're just so grateful for his friendship and leadership, and he told me he's having fun getting into Hollywood, so there you go. It's a whole new world. We'd also like to thank Assembly Majority Leader Ian Calderon, who couldn't be here today, but Leader Calderon was the production tax credit bill author in the Assembly, played a central role in getting this legislation through as well. We want to thank the industry trades, the studios, and others who helped us work on this common goal. And lastly, a thanks to all the underrepresented members of the entertainment industry, many of whom are here today. Those who couldn't make it, we've spoken up a lot about the need for diversity in Hollywood. We're appreciative to the California State Assembly, the Senate, and Governor Brown for hearing their words and taking action. And just on a personal note, I actually am indirectly a member of the Asian community. My stepmother is Chinese. I have two sisters who are half Asian, half Chinese. So I'm very proud to be here introducing this today. My stepmother is like beaming right now. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chair of the API Caucus, Assemblymember Rob Bonta.
Good morning. Thank you, Nancy, for the kind introduction. I'm really excited to be here. Again, I'm Rob Bonta. I am a California State Assembly member from up north. So I bring greetings from Oakland, Alameda, and San Leandro. I'm also the chair of the Asian Pacific Islander Legislative Caucus. We are a caucus of API state legislators. We're the biggest we've ever been in the history of the state of California at 12 members strong. And I'm also the first Filipino-American state legislator in the history of California. And thank you. Thank you. I want to start with some thanks of my own. Thank you to Nancy for that very kind introduction. Thank you, and for your leadership. Thank you to Teresa Ching Lau for her partnership with us and helping put together today's event and to get the success of the diversity provisions in the film tax credit. I want to thank WME generally and Endeavor Content for hosting us today and for partnering with us on this. This is something that we always talk about in government. As publicly elected officials, we always talk about the need and the desire for government to work side by side with our industry leaders to accomplish important goals and achievements and to overcome challenges like we have here with the diversity provisions. Thanks to all of you that are here today and those that came before you. California is internationally recognized for our film and our entertainment industry. However, the API Legislative Caucus has long known and has directly heard from many of you and other stakeholders about the need for more diversity in the stories that are told in Hollywood and in the faces that we see on our screens. We held a roundtable discussion with API industry leaders almost a year ago now here in LA to strategize regarding how we can work together to address these challenges. And as the California State Legislature worked on renewing the California Film Tax Credit this year, the API caucus prioritized diversity from the very beginning. As a caucus, we advocated for provisions that would support transparency and accountability in Hollywood because, sadly, when it comes to the on-screen representation of Asian Americans. It is not uncommon to see white actors and actresses take the place of Asian ones. Hollywood is doing better, to be sure, but is still falling short. There are many examples of this, some more egregious than others, like Emma Stone playing an Asian woman in Aloha, or Scarlett Johansson playing a Japanese woman in Ghost in the Shell, just to name a few. And behind the scenes, it's incredibly important to have diverse writers, producers, directors, so they can share their story and the stories of Asian Americans and other diverse communities in a way that only they could. So we're proud to stand before you today, with you today, to celebrate the inclusion of these important above-the-line diversity provisions in this third extension of the film tax credit. And just to be clear about what we are accomplishing with these diversity provisions, never before in the history of the California film tax credit have there been above-the-line diversity provisions. So it was something that we put a stake in the ground on as an API caucus, working with you and others who shared our values and our belief in the need for that, and we got it accomplished for the first time this year. And I wanted to say a couple thank yous to Senator Holly Mitchell, who's been just such a tremendous leader and a co-author and just joined us. Let's give her a round of applause for her tremendous leadership. And also our colleague, Assemblymember Majority Leader Ian Calderon, who can't be here today, was very receptive, partnered with us throughout in incorporating these provisions, and was a tremendous leader. And I want to just say a word about someone you'll hear from in a moment. Assemblymember David Chu has just been a warrior on this from before he ever came to the California State Legislature. This is an issue that's been near and dear to his heart, something he's passionate about, something he cares deeply about, and really pushed and led on this effort. So I want to thank Assemblymember Chu for his efforts. Fair and accurate representation on screen can help combat stereotypes or the shroud of invisibility often imposed on Asian and Pacific Islander communities. We all know that diversity matters. The film industry should respect and reflect the beautiful diversity of our state, and the API Legislative Caucus is just very proud to have helped lead on the inclusion of the diversity provisions in the film tax credit. We know that this is a beginning, not an end. We look forward to building on the momentum and doing more with all of you and making it a partnership that really has permanent, ongoing, long-lasting impacts that increase the diversity of Hollywood and makes it a more inclusive industry. So with that, I want to thank you, and it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Senator Holly Mitchell, who's been a great leader on this issue.
Good morning. If I'm going to get a little political for a minute, if I may. If you don't think elections matter, look at the contents of this bill. Because if there, quite frankly, perhaps wasn't a woman of color chair the budget committee who made it happen through the budget, maybe not. If there hadn't been a strong API caucus, strength, not in the character of the people you see here, because they are strong men, but strength in numbers, where they could step up to the plate and make this a top priority, and leverage, let's just be very real here, maybe not. So don't be confused that elections don't matter. And if these issues are important to you, then elect people who share your core values, who can take these policy issues to the table and make it happen for all of us. That's how this happened this year. Because the API caucus stepped up. The industry, I'm very proud to say, came to me and asked me to be the author of SB 951. I was proud to do so. And then we collaborated and used our political strength and will and strategy to broker the deal in your California state budget. That's how it happened. And we are proud to stand before you, recognizing the jobs it will bring and protect in the state of California. As a Black woman, recognizing the history of this industry with regard to blackface, not so very long ago, I share the concern about the importance of diversity in front of the camera, because we know those images represent how the world meets us, greets us, and perceives us, and how our children, in many instances, view themselves, first and foremost. And so having this opportunity to bring this change and the expansion of the tax credit this year was very important, and I'm proud that we were able to partner and make it happen. You know the film tax credit has had an undeniably positive influence in our state. It's increased jobs in a thriving industry and has led to an infusion of dollars and careers into our cities and communities. This expansion this year will continue to be able to create opportunity. We were proud every year the tax credit has improved and changed based on what we know. When you know better, you do better. And on July 23rd, the California Film Commission announced its first round of feature films to receive the tax credit allocation in 2018, the fourth year of the program. This year, the allocation will cover both big features and indies. There are 19 films conditionally approved for $52.2 million in tax credits. They will generate $258 million in expenditures, both for wages and payments for equipment, vendors, etc. As the budget chair for the Senate, those dollars mean dollar signs for us as a state in terms of the general fund, and improves our ability to continue to provide critical services that all California's residents need and deserve. I am proud to be here with you today. I was proud to stand with my brothers and sisters in the API caucus to make this important change in a critical public policy that makes California continue to be the leader in the industry that we own worldwide. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you today, and congratulations.
Good morning. It is wonderful to be with all of you, and it's amazing to look out onto this room and see the incredible diversity that is entertainment, that is Hollywood here in California. Nancy, and to the WME team, thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for your work with all of us. I do want to correct one thing you said, which is, for the record, I'm not trying to break into Hollywood. Although occasionally I do play a politician on television. But what I will say is, for the last 10 years as I've been an elected official, I have been involved in many conversations with many of you in this room of what we need to do to make sure that what we see on the screen looks like us, looks like America, and looks like the world. My name is David Chu. I am an Assembly member representing San Francisco. I am the first Asian American to represent Eastern San Francisco in the legislature. And this is an issue that I've been thinking about for a long time, in part because I never thought I would become an elected official. It was not what society expected of me. When I was growing up in high school, my role model was Long Duck Dong from 16 Candles. And in my 20s and 30s, I had many conversations with Asian American actors and actresses, some here in this room, who told me that the parts that they auditioned for started with the 5 Gs. They were interviewing and auditioning to be geeks or gooks, gangsters or gung fu masters or geishas. We've come a long way. We've come a very long way. It's amazing that 20 years ago, we had our first Asian American sitcom with All American Girl. And it took 20 years, but we finally have Asian American sitcoms back on television. It's amazing that 25 years ago, we had Joy Luck Club. And 25 years later, in a few days, we're going to finally see the premiere of a major feature film with an entirely Asian American cast. We have come a long way, and that's in part due to the work that all of you have done. I know my colleague Rob Ponte and others, we've thanked so many of you here, but literally to a person, each of you were invited because you have had a role. You are leading, you are directing, you are writing, you're producing, you're acting. You are stepping up to make sure that how we are depicted on the screen to the world, again, looks like the diversity of the world. I want to thank you for that. I also want to take a moment and thank the studios and the industry for their support of the idea that diversity matters. I supported the California Film Tax Credit because this is an industry that is of critical importance to our Golden State. And it's important not just for jobs, it's important not just for culture, but it's important, again, for what you reflect of us. Let me just close by saying that just this past week, I had an opportunity to meet with Asian American legislators from 7 states. And we were, by and large, really the first in what we do. And we have one request of all of you. Our hope is that there's someone here in this room who is going to write a feature-length film starring, as the main character, an Asian American politician. And if he happens to be a Chinese American from San Francisco, that's okay. Thank you very much. By the way, I realize
African-American budget chair sidekick.
an African-American budget chair sidekick. Senator, who do you want to play you? Holly Mitchell will play herself. And with that, it is my honor to introduce someone who truly does not need any introduction. All of you know the phrase, live long and prosper. George Takei, could you please come up and join us?
Thank you very much, Assemblymember Chu, and certainly the chairwoman who made all this possible with her leadership, Senator Mitchell. Thank you very much, and Rob Ponte, and all of the people that worked on getting this legislation passed. It's a significant legislation, and it affects me certainly as a member of the motion picture and television community. It affects me as a member of the diversity community, and it profoundly affects me as an Asian American and very specifically as a Japanese American. Because as we heard from Rob Bonta, the image created by the media, motion pictures, and in my childhood there was no television, but those images are powerful in shaping public perception of minorities. And particularly because I am mindful of the history of those images. Before World War II, Asians and particularly Japanese were depicted in a powerfully negative way. We were evil, we were inscrutable, we were untrustworthy, we were sneaky. Those were the images. And when Pearl Harbor happened, that war hysteria and racism swept throughout this country. And we Americans were seen as the same as those images on the screens. Pearl Harbor happened, and overnight, we were looked at as inscrutable and untrustworthy and unscrupulous. And the President of the United States, affected by those images that added to the hysteria of this country, signed an executive order that ordered all Japanese Americans on the West Coast, 120,000 of us, to be summarily rounded up with no charges, with no trial, no due process, the central pillar of our justice system, and put into barbed wire prison camps. At 5 years old, I was categorized as an enemy alien, when clearly I was not. I was as loyal as a 5-year-old kid could be. I was born here in Los Angeles. My mother was born in Sacramento. My father was a San Franciscan. We were Americans. We were loyal Americans, and yet we became enemy aliens simply because we looked like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. That is the power of the images projected by the media. It can, under circumstances of hysteria, be enormously destructive. And that imprisonment and that impoverishment during the Second World War define who I am. I am an activist because of that experience. And I really profoundly appreciate the legislators that we have in California and across the United States today, because they are different. And because they are different, and because we as Americans are different, we have made the amazing progress that Assemblyman Chu described. It's a changed world. We are in the motion picture industry as workers, as contributors. But what is important about the new provision in the California Film Tax Credit Bill is the fact that it has as its goal above the line voices that are people of color, women, and particularly in this fraught time, voices of Muslims, people of a certain faith. Because of 9/11, their lives have been changed, as not quite as dramatically as that of Japanese Americans, but profoundly affected. And the images that are being projected of Muslim people are very concerning. So this is a very important bill, to have our voices above the line as leaders, as people that are making decisions, as creative people. And so I'm very grateful to the legislators and the people who worked on the campaign to get this bill passed. But even more, I'm proud as a Californian because this is a California bill. And California has always been at the leadership, and it's going to affect the rest of the country. And so we are making progress. We are, as Californians, boldly going where no man has gone before.
Hi, that was really hard to follow, so I'm gonna try. My name is Nina Yang Bon Jovi. I am Chinese American, Taiwanese American. I still speak Mandarin, and I'm a feature film producer. My producing partner is Forrest Whitaker. Of the last 5 films that we produced, there was one called Fruitvale Station in Oakland, because as you know, without Fruitvale, there's no Wakanda. That's right. And second film was called Dope. Third is called Songs My Brothers Taught Me by Chloe Zhao. Roxanne Roxanne by Michael Arnell. And currently Sorry to Bother You by Boots Riley. So all 5 directors at WME. You guys owe me a check. But I just wanted to say 3 of the 5 films I just mentioned were shot in California. And I actually applied for the California tax incentive and was turned down. So it was really disheartening because I'm a Californian, and also these films take place in California. And it wasn't about getting these productions to go with the tax incentive. It's about adding to the budget so we can put it more on the screen. And we were turned down, and it was disheartening. So when I heard about what you guys are all doing, it makes me very excited because you can utilize me and check the box of Asian woman making Black films. So I just want to say how important it is to someone like me who works in the above the line space as a producer, championing voices of color, filmmakers of color. And one big project that's coming up for me is the Angela Davis biopic. And the story takes place in San Diego, Los Angeles, and in the Bay Area. And just recently I got the budget from the studio and they're saying we're shooting in Georgia. So I need all your help to bring it here because I'm also a mother. I want to be able to film in California if we can. So, you know, I am here as your resource of my experience, personal experience as a producer, going through budgeting, going through incentives, and looking at all options to make sure production goes. So I just want to say hello and that I'm here, and please utilize me as your resource. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Jashney. I'm slightly off mandate. I'm half Iranian American, but that's not what qualifies me to speak. I'm here partly in my capacity as a partner in a studio content fund that Endeavor Content envisioned and enabled. Graham Taylor, Kevin Iwashina, Chris Rice approached me when I rolled out of having spent 10 years as part of the team enabling and scaling and evolving Legendary, which bears slightly, which I'll get to in a moment. But Studio 2043 is satirically named for the year in which the US Census says that the minority nation will become the majority nation. I think it's laughable. It gave me, as I deal with capital holders and distribution gatekeepers and kind of the robots of the world, it gave me a tweaky way to get into their head by pointing out that we kind of have tomorrow's newspaper for today's horse races. Because if you want to tell me that it's going to take 25 more years to fully realize what we've already been enjoying the fruit of for 10 years, as you know, and if you are your own consumer, separate from self-interest and that the universal color is really green, and separate that it's just smart business, the idea that as consumers who are otherwise consuming Atlanta, Insecure, The Defiant Ones, the Fast and the Furious franchise, I see Brad here, Dwayne Johnson, this polyethnic present that without dilution, right, and with people being able to retain the potency and specificity of their cultures, but still aggregate those cultures. I mean, we all go out and eat Chinese food and Indian food and Mexican food, and we don't shed or dilute any of our individual cultures in the doing. So why should that be any different with content offerings? So Studio 2043, I'm partnered in with Dee Reese, who obviously is the reliquary for inclusivity and diversity, but she wants to be Jim Cameron. She wants to be Denis Villeneuve. You know, she isn't simply defined by her psychographic or demographic descriptors. I'm also partnered with Vincent Newman in that fund. So we have enacted this fund thanks to Endeavor Content and its foresight. We talked about wanting to theme the money because money is relatively fungible, and while we all need it and want it, the truth is there's a lot of it sitting out there. They just need the reason, and usually they need the story, which this effort provides to get them to lean in. And I have been accused over the last couple of years since I rolled out of Legendary and was structuring my holding company of being somewhat of a late-stage carpetbagger because I was opportunistically exploring this inclusivity and diversity-ridden space. And I laughed at them because I said, look, go back and look at my resume and tweeze out of the last 30 years, which thanks to a lot of people in this room who helped me achieve some of that. There has been a consistent cadence of involvement, but there's also been a consistent cadence of skepticism when I had to go to my bosses and my capital holders and my distribution gatekeepers and convince them, when I went with Stephanie Elaine, with John Singleton, who we found as a PA in a producer's office, that Boys in the Hood was worth $5 million. Today, any one of us would go to our friends and family and crowdsource the $5 million because it's so obvious. And when I was involved in helping Dave and Sulco and Simon sign Kendrick to the agency, and his Good Kid, Mad City is his Boys in the Hood. So part of how I got into his head and his life was the ability to talk about how this has just been smart business, and it was an outgrowth of passion. I grew up in Culver City. It was at the nexus of a lot of brown, white, and black faces. It just was all I knew. It also happened to be the heart of Screenland at the time. So I was compelled to do this. So I was sick of hearing when I was involved with a non-musical adaptation of Anna and the King that Mike sold us, that was initially going to be Ang Lee, ultimately was a different director, but Chow Yun-fat was our leading man. And I had to hear about, well, is he manly enough? Is he sexy enough? And Jodie, she's gay, which I am now able to say because it doesn't matter. She's an actor who portrays different roles. She's a chameleon. He's a chameleon. So we had a love story, and it worked. When we were going to make 42, and people were like, oh, well, that doesn't really fit with Legendary's fanboy mandate. And I said, well, first of all, you're behind the curve. Second of all, you want to tell me Jackie Robinson's not Legendary? And when we wanted to do Straight Outta Compton in partnership with Universal, when they offered us the opportunity to opt in, I said, you want to tell me NWA is not Legendary? So this is not charity. This is not just social action. It is absolutely required because it is the reflection. This room it happens to be the distillation of people who care about these issues, but the truth is this is just a microcosm of the world out there. And I'm not I don't mean to sound like a crass person who's about the money, but I am about things that are tasty and nutritious. I want to serve both masters. So, I mean, unlike George or the artists in this room where your legacy will live on because your work lives on and speaks to who you are and what you did when you were here, as an enabler, as a patron, as a connector, it's harder for me to have that legacy other than maybe my son remembering to point to some old DVD, dusty DVD thing and saying to his kid, yeah, Dad did something on this. I don't really know what. So my only legacy is enabling the voices that need to sing to be able to sing at scale. And I need to make a good living while I'm doing it, because if we're talking about the aggregation of audience, and it really is the whole, why are we talking about segmented, snipered audiences? Let's aggregate the audience. Let's make great money doing it. Let's give them the resources to do it at scale, and let's keep the production activity here in California. So thanks very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Leonardo Nam. I'm an actor here in Hollywood. Not many people know that I was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, or that when I was 6 I moved to Australia, which is where I learned and to develop my passion to be an artist. So at 19, I left for New York City to study drama and to chase my dreams. Little did I know what a wonderful but challenging career I was embarking on as an Asian actor in Hollywood, especially now as an American citizen, I can say this. I am indebted to a number of people for my acting career, but especially to a few pioneering women and people of color in the industry who advocated for diversity and opportunities for people just like me. Just to highlight a few real people in my career that gave me a chance to live my life as a respected actor in Hollywood. My breakout role in Hollywood came from the movie The Perfect Score, where a female producer of color, Charla Sumter, opened up one of the lead roles, which was traditionally written for as a white male lead, to this funny-looking, aspiring Asian actor, me. Another woman of color above the line, Deborah Martin Chase, continued to catapult my career by defying convention and fighting to cast an Asian actor as Brian McBrien in the beloved Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants franchise. Ava DuVernay pushed to include me in representing an American FBI agent in her series pilot with CBS. And most recently, I have the privilege of playing Felix Lutz on HBO's groundbreaking and celebrated hit series Westworld, thanks in part to another woman of color who has above-the-line position of co-creator, Lisa Joy. I am fortunate that these pioneering women who were in positions to create opportunities for people like me. And this legislation for the California Production Tax Credit renewal will help put more underrepresented people in positions above the line. I stand before you as living proof that diversity above the line works in creating opportunities for equality and diversity in all ranks of the entertainment industry. That's why this legislation is important, because it reports on above-the-line diversity on productions. It establishes a diversity program if they don't already have one, and report on diversity promoting initiatives. I want to thank the elected officials, Majority Leader Calderon, Senator Holly Mitchell, and the API Legislative Caucus for making this happen. We still have a ways to go for creating more opportunities for underrepresented people in this industry, but this is a concrete step in the right direction. Thank you for your time and efforts. Onwards.
My name is Dr. Stacey Smith, and it's a pleasure to be here on such a celebratory morning. For those of you that know me, my job is very straightforward. I am going to cast a negative mood on the entire room with my data. This morning, I released, along with the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative at USC, the last 1,100 top box office films in the United States from 2007 to 2017. I will give you the headline. I will not bury it. There has been, yet again, no meaningful change in gender, race, ethnicity, LGBT status, or people with disabilities on screen in the most profitable films in the entertainment industry. Let me highlight a few of the major problems that I refer to as the the invisibility crisis that we see on screen. Last year, top 100 films, 43 did not feature a single Black female speaking character on screen, not one. 65 failed to depict one Asian girl or woman speaking on screen. 64 were devoid of Latinas. And of the top 400 films, of the last 4 years, there was only one transgender female speaking character on screen. One. Inconsequential, she appeared for a few seconds in the film Hot Pursuit. Now, there's one easy solution to all of this, if I need to make myself clear again. It's to actually do something really not that revolutionary. It's called hiring. You need to hire female directors because these above the line positions correlate with something really quite extraordinary. When you have a female director, you have more girls and women on screen, more women 40 years of age or older on screen, which is good news for someone like me. You have more racial and ethnic diversity, and you have other women in key gatekeeping positions above and below the line. Hiring matters. But last year, well, let's think about the last 11 years. Across 1,100 films, only 4% of directors are female. Of those more than 1,100 jobs, only 8 female directors were women of color. 4 were black women, 3 were Asian women. It's actually only 2 because Jennifer Yu Nelson worked twice, and 1 Latina. So until the industry gets with the program, adopts the inclusion rider, which we also created at the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative, I'm here to celebrate this new piece of legislation. This is really remarkable because it represents a leap forward when it comes to changing these exclusionary hiring practices, particularly above the line. California has demonstrated how to be a leader once again on this topic and has set forth a template that other states can use. By including reporting on diversity above the line, this bill creates accountability. Rather than waiting for reports like mine at USC, content creators have to tabulate their own scores on inclusion. And creating this awareness opens up a space for people to make intentional choices in who is hired, and it forces filmmakers to recognize when they have not made choices towards inclusion. Now, as you all know, I'm an academic and I evaluate everything, so I want to applaud this progress, but I think there's room to go even further. We need to keep you in the state of California when you want to direct so that you can stay with your family. Future bills must do more than reporting. They have to ask filmmakers to commit to inclusion targets from their films and fund hiring strategies that are fair and balanced. And they need to award an advantage to films that make inclusion a priority. California has made important strides in this area to ensure that the diverse population of taxpayers who support this incentive are represented and perhaps even hired to work on them. Congratulations to all of you on your efforts.
Hey everyone, my name is Teresa Ching Lau. I'm a partner at WME. I was the first Asian American partner from the Endeavor side. WME and Endeavor Content are committed to making sure that artists are able to create work with as few barriers as possible and across as many different vehicles for people to consume their work. I'm very happy today to see WME and Empower dedicate their resources through the Government Relations Department to promote inclusivity initiatives in Sacramento. I also want to recognize Endeavor Empower, which consists of Kevin Iwashina, Phil Sun, Dan Limerick, and many others here, which is dedicated to promoting a more inclusive company and industry. As we have heard today and in the past, there's been a lack of underrepresented voices in the content produced in Hollywood. What is exciting about today's event is that we're recognizing a tangible step forward in making Hollywood an industry that better reflects the diverse population of its consumers. The new diversity reporting requirement for production tax credit recipients is a step in the right direction. California is one of the most diverse states in the country. It's important that our films and TV shows reflect that diversity. It's also one of our greatest exports, culturally and financially. Arming the California Film Commission with data and statistics on Hollywood's track record of diversity will help shine a light on the need to hire more minorities and women in above-the-line positions. As we just discussed, hiring more women and people of color writers, producers, and directors will lead to the casting and hiring of more people of color in female roles. I want to echo Nancy's earlier thanks and again thank Leader Calderon, Senator Holly Mitchell, Assembly members from the API Caucus, Ponte, and my friend David Chu. all who have been instrumental in making this happen. Also, thank you to Leonardo Nam. Thank you so much. Nina Yang Bon Jovi, John Josh Nee, the amazing George Takei, and Dr. Stacey Smith. And I also want to spend a moment just thanking all of you in this room today, because if you got an email from me or Kevin Iwashin or Dan Limerick or Phil Sun or Ashley Holland or any of us, if you're clients, directors, producers, writers, studio and creative executives, there's a reason why we reached out to you specifically, because we feel like you are walking the walk and talking the talk. And we do need more of you. We do need more work from here. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for your daily activism. It truly is felt and important, and it's going to take a community. We hope you will continue fighting the fight with us as we have more work to do. We would love for you in the audience to take a moment and meet the legislators so they can hear directly from you how important legislation like this is to us in California. I encourage you all to stick around, grab something to eat, and talk to each other and these impressive legislators. Thank you so much for all your participation today. Thanks.